You're watching Drakewing Gaming. Enjoy the video.
Hey guys and gals, Nary here from Drakewing Gaming, and some of you know me on Twitter, The Gaming Drag. Today I'm coming back at you with another Let's Play episode of Adastra. So y'all, without further ado, we've got a little bit of content to get through. Let's go ahead and jump right back in, shall we? Alarm Chan, you were up, and let's go! Alright. Yes, along with smoothing over Adastra and Khemian relations in general, the ambassador will be here for the long term. The vizier... Amicus glances at Neferu, but the jackal simply leans back, looking out of the forest again. The vizier will depart back to Khemian within a week, which is why negotiations must begin at once. And you said this is taking place at a university? Yes, there are a few Khemian experts there, and I suppose Khemians find places of learning more comfortable to negotiate in. Amicus glances at Neferu for confirmation. I believe it has more to do with Adastra and Academia being a more friendly entity compared to the political departments or palace. Amicus smirks. Indeed, the last bastion of chemophiles. Neferu rolls his eyes before they settle on me again. Oh, and remember our conversation about the other? This university is famous for supposedly being absolutely infested. I raise an eyebrow. So it's haunted? Amicus frowns. Are you serious? Have you been filling his head with the ghost stories of students, Neferu? I have. Don't worry, I don't really believe it. I lean back against Amicus, deciding that we can't really have a conversation without the two canines butting heads. The university is in a secluded area outside the city, mostly surrounded by the forest. The gardens and paths are well taken care of, and it reminds me of a more classical-looking version of a palace. Amicus was right. I don't see a single person on the campus. Our carriage rides up to the main path to the largest-looking building that's front and center. We park in front of the building next to a few small aircraft before getting out and heading inside. For a moment, I'm in awe at the size of the architecture surrounding me, especially the amount of sculpture spread throughout the walls. Amicus immediately begins talking to me, though. Go ahead and make yourself comfortable. There should be screens in most of the rooms, and down those stairs you can find games of amusement. Amicus! Amicus jerks his head away from me, looking up as Virginia's familiar voice in a very familiar tone echoes around the marble hallways. Gods. Amicus mumbles under his breath as Virginia, her face a mask of fury, approaches. She spares me a glance for a single second before focusing back on Amicus. You are an hour late. Am I? Yes, I've tolerated your tardiness since. Well, you were a child, but you've kept the vizier waiting. How could you? The wolf whisper screams through her teeth, eyes practically bulging from her head. I've never seen Virginia so angry before. Amicus shifts uncomfortably. Well, it's a holiday, so I disabled notifications. Are you joking? Emperors do not get holidays, ever. Well, consider it strategic. What? I am simply letting him know who holds the power here. It will be an advantageous start to our negotiations. Virginia looks at her brother with borderline disgust. Well, at least you can make even the most extreme stupidity sound not quite so stupid. I hope you're not planning on bringing your maid in. For a moment I don't realize that she's referring to me. Of course not. He's waiting out here. Virginia looks at me again. My apologies. I hope my brother learns to treat you with more respect in the future. If not, then I'm sure you'll have no trouble finding someone better. What? If you're so worried about wasting time, why are we doing just that? Teacher Viteris is entertaining them on a tour. You better think of a good excuse before they return. Actually, just pretend it didn't happen. Oh, that sounds like something you wouldn't want me to do. Khemians are different. I suggest you not try to trick them. Let's go in for now. I think I hear them. Sure enough, I hear echoing voices up the hallways. Amicus turns to me, giving me a quick hug, again reassuring me that he won't be long before following Virginia up the hall and disappearing behind a sliding door. Neferu, who I had completely forgotten about, walks past me, heading for the room as well. I frown, noting the dull look on his face, the one he'd been wearing since the carriage ride. You all right? I ask him just as he passes me. He glances toward me. Of course. He doesn't even make an effort to make it look like that's the case before walking through the door as well. The voice gets closer, coming from a bend in the hallway up ahead. Not really wanting to be seen, I move back toward the sculptures, hiding myself amongst them. Technically, all of Adastra City knows who I am, my face having been shown on the giant screens in the city, on loop for months. Still, I'm old enough that I feel like it would just cause more trouble than it would be worth be seeing. So I peer around a statue wolf's waist, feeling like a stalker as I watch the small crowd approaching the door that Amicus, Virginia, and Neferu walked through. One second, y'all. It is indeed water time. Okay. Good water. The best water. A very short old wolf leads the way, followed by only the second jackal I've ever seen in person. He's taller and thinner than Neferu, and there's an icy cold expression on his face. I imagine him to be the vizier. Next to him walks a rather broad-shouldered creature that vaguely looks like a wolverine. His clothing and the paint on his fur is definitely Khemian, so I assume it must be the ambassador. Finally, a younger wolf brings up the rear, one that has longer fur on his neck, which he has stylized into a braid. I'd heard about wolves with manes at some point in my studies, a trait that had been cultivated amongst Adastra's more influential families, a status symbol of the elite. The braided wolf starts to look in my direction, and that's when I pull back quickly, hiding myself behind the marble and waiting until I hear the door slide shut again. I'm left alone, standing amongst the quiet, spotless marble of the expansive university. At first I sit on a bench, quietly taking in the architecture, thinking about how cool it would be if I could come here to study instead. Though, now I know that this is the most prestigious university at Adastra, having seen the giant name carved into the face of the building on the way in. Varro's University. Or just Varro. Only the smartest young wolves study here, along with the wolves from the richest families in Adastra. However, from the handful of times that it came up in Com's ramblings, it sounded like it was one of the most progressive places on the moon. It was one of the first elite universities to allow women to study inside the school, rather than having to sit in a separate, cheaper building on the outskirts of campus. That was just 50 years ago, finally allowed under the rule of Amicus's father. Eventually I grow bored with just sitting there and start to walk around, looking at the sculptures and plaques. They give short descriptions of the various wolves and sculptures depict. I try to piece together what I can with my limited written language knowledge. Notable is the one in the middle, Varro, the university's namesake. He apparently studied the education system on Amorpha before implementing that system on Adastra. This alone shows how different this university is from the rest of Adastra. The wolves, especially the politicians, would never admit to borrowing anything from the cats, even though they borrowed plenty. But even here, there are only sculptures of wolves. No siblings, no children, nothing. It reminds me of one of the biggest issues I've been wrestling with the past few months, how separate I feel from this society. It's to be expected. I'm on an alien world, after all, but it's a world of many different creatures and cultures, yet the wolves seem to be doing their best to ignore that. I realize that I will never be part of this society, even if humans are successfully integrated into the Galaxius. In fact, I already know what the wolven reaction to human society will be. Suspicion, condescension, and overall jealousy at the idea of a race that seemingly uplifted itself, a species assigned a role that's different than all the rest. It doesn't matter that I'm liked by them now. It's only because I'm a seemingly dumb, parentless ape. They will come to despise me just as they despise the Khemians. Is it worth it to deal with all that, only to be with Amicus? I know the answer, but I still contemplate. As my thought process spirals, I even think for a moment that maybe Alex had the right idea. But no, thoughts like that always bring me back down. It reminds me of the humans, wolves, and all the rest of the Galaxies that are so different in the end. Which means I have to hope that the parents are different, because I don't think I can trust gods that act like I do. I try to distract myself, walking around the big marble halls, looking into different rooms and reading any inscriptions I can find. The game room in the basement is just a series of tables with various board games that I've never learned to play. After a while, it becomes clear that this isn't going to be a quick meeting. The hours go by slowly, and while I would usually be pretty ticked off at Amicus at this point, I'm mostly just sad. Being alone amongst towering marble pillars isn't so different from the palace, and still, this is actually a nice change of pace. 1 second, y'all. It is water time. Don't spill. Okay. There's a little bit of water. Tiny little bit. Okay. I just wish I could be spending more time with Amicus. Eventually, I find a bunch of folded red cloth piled on the table, looking like banners for what could be the school flag or colors or something. I grab a couple of these before scouting out a marble bench hidden in the corner of the main room, behind the statues and out of sight of the main door. I lie down on the bench, flat on my back, laying the cloth under my head. I'm tired after being woken up so much earlier than I'm used to, and it's not long before I'm drifting off to sleep. Oh boy. Space stretches and twists into the distance, the infinite dark blue broken here and there with planets, stars, and dust clouds. It's endless, monolithic, passionless. Except there. Its mark is clear on the universe, like a stain, a blemish on the glittering patchwork of stars. The planets die, the stars shrivel, the dust scatters. It's all tainted. The mark is old. It's ancient. It existed before life. Our life. It touches every life form from the youngest child to the oldest sibling. It convulses before your eyes in the dark. It whispers in your ear while you sleep. It brushes your neck when you don't see. We all feel it. We all know it. It transcends all. It touches all. It becomes all. I see. The black tendrils of its reach already infect everything around you. They're going to kill you. They're going to kill him. Your purpose is doomed. And yet you know that this is only the beginning. That soon it will blanket everything. You will die. He will die. Trapped in the amalgamation forever. Apart. And that's when it won't hide in the dark anymore. I gasped loudly, sitting up on the bench, feeling like something had been sitting on my chest. I felt like I'd been holding my breath, or something had pushed it out. Die. A faint whisper to my left, and when I looked, just for the briefest of moments, it seemed as if the crouched wolf statue was contorted. Its neck is broken, staring straight back at me. I jump, leaning back as I stare at the grotesquely twisted wolf, but it's not twisted. It's like it always was. And then I'm falling off the bench, landing hard on my ass and sending a jolt of pain through my tailbone. I can't help the involuntary yelp that comes out of my mouth. Kyllian? Amicus's voice echoes through the halls, making me scramble to my feet, suddenly embarrassed about what had just happened. I clear my throat in a way that sounds casual. I'm over here. I move out from behind the statues, glancing one last time at the crouched wolf, neck in its proper position. It whispers in your ear while you sleep. When my back is to it, the nape of my neck prickles, and I hurry out from my hiding spot. As I move out into the brightly lit main room, I realize that it's already dark. I've been here all day. Where? Amicus's voice seems to come from further away up the hall. Here! I just wanted him to come get me. I had a nightmare or something, but it felt so cold, dark, and real. I hear some footsteps padding up the hall. I turn to see Amicus come around the corner, his paws clasped together. Kyllian, I'm so sorry. They wouldn't agree on anything, and I couldn't excuse myself to come see you because that would make it look as if I cut Amicus off by hugging him, just wanting to feel his presence for now. The depressing thoughts I'd had all day, on top of that awful nightmare, at least what I hope was a nightmare, has left me feeling like complete shit. Are you all right? I'm quiet for a moment, wondering if I should tell Amicus anything about what I was thinking, what I saw, and decide against it, at least for now. I'm just happy to see you. Really? Even after suffering through my complete incompetence all day long? I'm about to scold Amicus for saying that about himself, but then I just end up nodding. Yeah, we all have days like that. Did everyone leave? Yes, the meeting concluded about 10 minutes ago. I had worried you'd left the university for whatever reason. Sorry. Don't be. Were you sleeping? Yeah. Well, that's good, because I'm hoping, even after how poorly the day went, that you might join me for a late-night Lover's Day celebration. He never gives up, and I do love that about him. I smile. That sounds great, Amicus. We walk down the steps from the main building into an empty courtyard, with all the vehicles gone. One second, y'all. It is time for water. There we go. Yes. Give me that sweet water. Okay. I frown. They just left us without any transportation? Oh, yes. I told them to go on ahead. Oh, why? Do you not wish to walk? Isn't it a little far to walk? I follow Amicus down the steps and through the university's gardens before we're back in the forest, walking in the direction away from the palace. Not really. The city and palace are within reasonable walking distance. I walk alongside the wolf, feeling myself relax again as we're surrounded by the quiet forest. Huh, I guess I just assumed it was far off. It was far since we're always using the carriage. We tend to be lazy. That is expected by the citizens as it's seen as more dignified, I suppose. Huh, what about security? Shouldn't you have some protection as Emperor? I look around, feeling almost vulnerable out here in the open with Amicus, used to always having the protection of the palace walls around us. Amicus glances up, and I follow his gaze, immediately spotting the blinking lights of drones above us. Drones are far better than any sapient when it comes to security. Amicus looks over at me. I suppose you haven't been outside the palace very often at all, have you? Not really. The wolf grimaces. I apologize for that. I know it seems like you should be more free to travel after what happened, but the people are... Amicus takes a moment to find his words. Very curious about you. It would be difficult to keep them from crowding. I raise an eyebrow as I see the lights in the distance, twinkling through the tree branches. But we're heading to the city right now, aren't we? I don't think I can deal with crowds, at least not now when I'm not really prepared for it. Well, I cleared the district for our arrival, though that was supposed to be, I'd say, 5 hours ago. But still, it's late enough that the streets should be mostly empty. Oh. I draw closer to Amicus. Where are we going? You'll see. There's a sly smile on the wolf's face as we trudge along the path, walking in comfortable silence. Eventually we break through the trees and into the small, quaint street that I've been on before. Sure enough, it's completely empty aside from one or two figures moving up the sidewalk or standing in a doorway. I notice then that Amicus is becoming more excited, and it shows in his widening strides, and I have to hurry to keep up. I try to think of where he could possibly be taking me. Amicus? The wolf pauses, waiting for me to catch up, and places his paw against the small of my back, and I'm suddenly thrust forward at his speed, forced along at a stumbling gait. Whoa! Come on, it's right here. The wolf sweeps me under a dark archway. There's a door in front of us, the soft glow of light barely showing through the frosted glass framing the door. It looks like it's closed, and I look up at Amicus in question, but the wolf doesn't seem bothered, and simply knocks on the door. We wait a few moments, then Amicus leans in toward the crack, talking loudly through it. Hello, Gaius. Something beyond the door blots out the light, and Amicus steps back before suddenly drawing me to his side, as if preparing to introduce me to someone. I stand there awkwardly, trying to prepare myself for whatever this is. When the door opens, it's not what I expect at all. An old she-wolf in an apron with a cloth tied over the top of her head peers around the door, cracked open just enough so that her muzzle could fit through. I feel Amicus shift next to me, and he forces his smile even bigger. Hello? The old woman squints. Hello? Amicus is quiet for a moment, clearly taken aback by the other wolf's lack of reaction. He clears his throat. I'm Amicus, your emperor. This is Kyllian, my companion. Alright, y'all, I'm going to go ahead and pause it right there. Thank you all so much for watching. It's like we still got a bit more content to get through. Anyway, y'all, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell. Leave a super thanks or a tip if you can. It always helps. Until the next video, I love you all. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.